rock and roll.
Over to you then, Rick.
All righty. Well, thanks for having me again. So like I said in the little discussion there, I'm actually going to be presenting at the fly fishing show in Denver, Colorado in February, and then at the a show outside of Vancouver, Canada in March, and then a club that I'm presenting for in April. And I'm going to do a thing on leeches. Now, I'm not going to do the whole presentation because it's got like a PowerPoint and I go into etymology and feeding and all that stuff. So I'm not going to do all that, but I'm going to tie the 5 different flies for you guys from really small. This is going to be the smallest. And then I'm going to go to a one that's about 4 inches, 5 inches long. So all the way up and in between. So this one here is one that here in British Columbia in Canada, unfortunately, we're only allowed to use one fly. So it really limits us on how we can fish. But this is one of my favorite flies to put under a strike indicator. So it's just a really simple little mini micro leech, but really simple. So, but this thing has probably caught me more fish under the indicator than any chronomid or anything, any buzzer style pattern ever has. So, and like I said, it's super simple to tie. So I like going right around the corner here. I want to make sure I'm around the corner bend of the hook. And then I'm just going to throw in some, this is Hen's Marabou, just black. And I'm just going to peel some right off the stem here. I don't need a huge tail. And I want those nice wispy tips on this. So I make sure that when I'm lining it up, it's going to end up at the length I want it, because I don't want to have to pinch it if possible, because I want those really nice wispy little tips. I'm just going to catch that in, make sure it's behind my bead there. And then, like I said, all the way around the corner. And then I go under it and over it, under it and over it, and come back up to the front. Then I'm just going to throw in some 0.2 mil. So it's the, I think it's medium, we would call it in other brands, but this is Semperfli 0.2 mil red wire. Again, just coming all the way back. And like I said, this one, I don't pull this one. This is one that goes under an indicator, period. It's not made the way I fish it, at least. I do not put this one, like I don't pull this one at all. It's under an indicator. So now I get some more of that marabou, and this time I try to find the longer fibers. There's the longer ones on this side. And I'm just going to take just a small, maybe at the maximum 2 fingers off of it. It won't even be 2 fingers, it'll be closer to 1 in a bit. And I just line up these tips, and I'll always wet my fingers here. It's just so much easier with marabou for like what I'm going to do here, to have this wettened a bit. And then I'll just cut it straight. Come on back. Offer up my tips. Sorry, just gonna counterclockwise spin that so it, there we go. So it's my tips that I started with here. And then I'm going to take my little bunch and carefully, not catching that hook, just bring this forward. And just tie that off. Making sure you got all that pack of marabou tied down well. And I'm not too concerned if I leave a little bit of room at the front at the bead, because I'm going to be putting a little bit of flashy dubbing right at the front as a collar. Give that a bit of a spin so when you cut it off, it gives a bit of that fluff. Take my red wire and I counter wrap. And I've tried it with many other wire colors. Red is my top, and then silver is my next. I've tried it with gold. I've tried it with a green. I've tried it with a few others. Red and silver are the ones that I find work the best with the fish. So, then I'll take some of the peacock dubbing from hens, and I'll get there's kind of a greeny black one. It's the number 12. And I'm just gonna put a little tiny collar here. I don't want a lot. Just a little collar. And then I'll take my brush. I'm just gonna, before I whip finish, I want to brush it out to see if I need more or not. And I just want a little wisp, so I'm going to rip off anything that's long. There we go. And whip finish. You can also, if you want, put in a little piece of flash in the tail. I'll show you here in a sec. I've got another one tied up that I can show you. So it depends. I like having both types with me, purely because sometimes the fish just don't want that extra flash. So if they're getting spooked, believe it or not, it's just a little tiny bit of flash, but that little tiny bit of flash, oh no, I just dumped my Sally Hansen's all over me. Sorry about that, guys. Just dumped my Sally Hansen's head cement all over myself. So I might have to go and wipe myself off after this. Just give me a minute. But so that's it. It's really simple. Now, if you're getting a short takes, then you can just give it a bit of a trim out on the water, right? That's the nice thing about marabou. It's so easy to trim, right? So, but if you're getting those short takes, but having that little bit of red rib really helps. So, and here's one, the same, but it's got a little tiny piece of flash in the tail, right? Just one little piece of flash. Right? Just one piece. Let's see if I can improve that lighting for you guys. Not happy how that light is. My little portable lights up. See if that helps a bit. But yeah, so there's only that one little strand of Flashabou, and I use this red Flashabou for it, straight red from Semperfli. The one I really like, and again, I've been running out of so many things lately because I've been tying so many flies, but the one I really like is the Semperfli Gala and Red blend. Its stuff is phenomenal. So, and just having one or two of those strands is awesome. So just give me a sec. I just got to wipe myself off. Like I said, I dumped this Sally Hansen's all over myself on the floor. So just give me 1 second.
Yep.
Don't want you ending up hard as nails.
Okay, I think that'll do. So yeah, so like I said, it's a really simple little tiny fly. I tie these. This is on an Arex FW 541 in a size 12, and I tie these in a 16, 14, 12. I don't go any bigger than a 12.
Is it cold water that one works the best, Rick?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, cold water. I mean, here in BC, our waters can get all the way up to 70 degrees, right? So Fahrenheit. So in the summertime, but yeah, I find that this pattern by far works the best in early spring and again in fall. Let's see, got my other boxes here. Another one that I use a lot, and I think they're taking this one as more of a bloodworm, is the same thing but in red, right? And just again hang that under a strike indicator. And I tie another one that's very similar. I don't have any exact ones with me, but like this one, which it would be, you can take that. It can be taken as a baby damsel too, right?
Yeah. What do you
So
think? Your first, the black. You think it's tadpole type attractor?
yeah, well, yeah, tadpoles. It depends if you've got tadpoles, yeah, for sure. Um, I think they're the black ones. I think they're taking them as either really small leeches, or I think they're taking them as a in the really small in the 16s. I think they're actually taking them as a chironomid, right? Because when these get wet and slick back, a chironomid or a buzzer, right? So when these slick back and get wet, so I think they're taking them as a leech myself,
Yeah.
right? When they're hanging, but yeah, but these things are, I would say, when I'm hanging under an indicator, these flies, this particular fly probably is responsible for 50 to 60% of all my fish under an indicator. I don't, I'm one of those guys like here in BC. It's very like I don't know how would I think it's pretty predominant in the UK as well, but here chironomids are king to the point where people don't even learn how to tie anything else and don't learn how to fish anything else because that's all they ever fish is chironomids. And I always look at it from a different perspective that if you're not well versed at everything, if there's not a chironomid hatch, you're going to screw yourself, right? So I really admire um, you guys and how you guys approach fishing, and I've been really learning a ton from UK sites, UK fly fishers over the last 10 years on how you guys approach water. It's totally different on how we approach water here. And I've started changing my way of approaching water to hybrid between our way and your guys' way, and I've been doing so good, right? So not limiting myself to one particular way of fishing, right? So, okay, I'll put all this crap away.
I think you have to adapt, don't you?
Well, yeah, I think so, right? I mean, look, plain and simple. If I'm on a lake and there's a monster chironomid hatch happening or midge hatch happening, I'd be stupid not to fish midges, right? But if you're on the water and there's not much activity, why would you concentrate on midges? I mean, a lot of times they're not going after them. They're looking for other things. So let's get them attracted in. Let's piss them off. Let's figure something else out, at least to get a fish in so you can do a throat sample and find out what have they been feeding on, right? I mean, so like I said, I really open myself up to a lot of different ways of fishing, especially since, like I said, paying attention to what you guys do over there and then mixing it with what we do over here. And what we do in BC is totally different than what they do in the rest of Canada. And the reason for that is we are only allowed one fly. And the rest of Canada is allowed 2 and 3 flies, just like you guys, right? So if you're limited to one fly, it really changes the way you have to look at fishing, right?
Do
I
they
think
use
it's,
hot streamers in Canada then, Rick?
do we use?
Streamers.
Oh, absolutely, we do. Probably a little bit different than your guys' streamers, and it depends what we're going for. There's certain strains of fish here. Like if we've got like Pennask strain and Kamloops strain and Dragonfly strain and Fraser Valley strain and all these different strains of rainbows. If there's a lake that's got Gerards in it, we're going with big streamers, like big, like 4 or 5 inch streamers. If it's got black waters in it, then they're more bug hunters. Penasks are more bug hunters. Dragonfly strain are a little bit of both because they come out of a lake called Dragon Lake, And in Dragon Lake, there's goldfish, so they hunt goldfish, right? So yes, we do, but not as where I'm living right now. They're bug hunters where I am, and I've got 100 lakes within 20 minutes, half an hour of my house. So okay. So this is my favorite, by far favorite leech to strip back, to pull back. And so we're going to be tying it on a Hen's BL. Had to change the hook, but BL 724 in a size 12. It's a 1/8 black bead. I prefer a flat black, but I'm waiting for a bunch. I ordered 1,000 flat black beads coming out of China, so I'm just waiting for them. Then I'm going to be using Arizona semi-seal from the geez, I'm having a brain fart. Montana Fly Company. Now, any Arizona semi-seal with this red and black kind of mix, it's the one that I use. And like I said, this is by far, hands down, my favorite to pull. I've done so well with it. I've probably got 50 of these in my box at any time. And I tie these in a anywhere from 14 down to up to 8, size 8. Probably 10 being my average size. Like that's the size I use the most, is a 10 or a 12, like this one is. So I'm just going to create a little bit of a bump here. Then I'm going to take some of this, and as I pull it out, I'm trying to line up the materials, and I'm laying it on my desk as I pull it out. And I'm just going to try to line up all my materials that they're going roughly in the same direction. And then I'm just going to kind of roll this in my hand, creating a little bit of a noodle, if you want to call it. And I'll lay it right about here. Catch that in, flip that over. I'm not worried about that space in the front. And come all the way back with my dubbing, going under it, over it, under it, over it. And then I'll just pull out anything that's loose. If there's anything loose there, I'll pull it out. And then I'll also wet it and get rid of this little rat's tail, if there is one. And I try not to cut if I can possibly not. There, that's good. Because you want this to have a really nice taper when it's done. So now I'll come forward again, dubbing loop, all the way to the back. Back forward. I wax the inside of my thread and the outside. Get my dubbing spinner. You know, it's funny. I've got the more expensive Stone Foe and a few others. I almost always end up going back to this little thing. I really like the simplicity. Just gonna let that hang there. And now I'm gonna do the same stuff again. Gonna stack it up on my desk here. And I'll show you once I got my little package. So I'm just stacking a bunch of this material again, trying to align it as close as I can. So now I just got a little package like that to put in between. I'll align it, like I said, as much as possible. And then I'm just going to spread this out. And this part will look like absolute dog garbage before I'm done. So now I end up pinching, spinning, and you've got to use a nano silk or a GSP here because you really want to spin this up.
Have you tried the little flip tool, Rick?
Sorry?
Have you tried the little flip tool?
No, I haven't yet.
That'd be perfect for that.
You know what? I just lost my view. Just give me a second. I gotta find my camera again. There we go. I'm using a little program called Flow, which casts my phone to my computer so I can actually see what I'm doing on so I know that it's not out of focus or whatever. So now that it's all spun up, I'm going to take my Velcro and really get aggressive here and brush this out. And there's another reason you want to use a good GSP, nano silk, nano thread. Hens just came out with a really nice nano thread. I really like the colors on it. It's pretty well the same stuff as the Semperfli nano silk. It's just the colors are, I find the colors are nicer. So now I'm just barely touching wraps. Come forward. Like I said, it's going to look like a hot mess. That is actually going to work out perfect because I want to leave that little gap for a different color. So this is one I've tied several times on my YouTube channel. I call it my BBL, or my Blood Bath Leech. So now, again, very aggressive, very aggressive. I want to pull all that stuff that was caught. Anything that was caught, I'm going to pull that out. Slick that back. And again, if you got anything that's long, you get a rat's tail like that, just give it a pull. Okay. Now this is dubbing. You could get. I can always share the link with you guys. This is the guy that blends it by hand here in Canada. Stu Thompson out of Manitoba. So it's Stu's Dark Water Dubbing is the name of the company, but it is super soft, like extremely soft, and then it's got little pieces of flash mixed in with it. So then I'm going to make another dubbing loop here. Nice spinner. And I don't need a ton here. It's going to put some in. It might be too much. We'll see. And just spread that out. And same thing, give that a good spin.
They look quite long fibers.
Yeah, some of them are. Yeah, it's a good mix of longer fibers and shorter fibers, and it's really wispy. Like it's because it's got like rabbit fur in it and muskrat and a few other things. So it's really like it's probably the softest dubbing I've ever seen. So same thing, just kind of build it up right behind that where you stopped. Stroking back my material every time I come around. Probably get one more. I want to go nice and tight right behind that bead because when I start pulling that out, often it'll separate away from that bead and I don't want that gap there. So I put extra on close to the bead just for that. Same procedure. Open up the Sally Hansen's and don't spill it on yourself. You know, my problem is when I try to put it back without holding the bottle, I'm blind in one eye. So the depth perception, I kind of miss it. And then I tip it and hit it, right? So I like doing 2 sets of whip finishes. Nip that off. Give it one last brush through. Sometimes I'll even just get my little toothbrushy thing. And then that's the fly, but when this gets wet, that slicks right back like that. So this thing is it's a, and then again, you see how the little waspies back the whips here? I'll take that and just pull that. I want a taper, but I don't want a really sharp little point. And if I can't get it to come off, then I'll just kind of, I don't like cutting tails, but there. That's it. And when this thing is in the water, it just pulsates and moves so well. So, and that's it. Like I said, and this is, I've hung this one under an indicator as well. I've tied it on a jig hook and then under an indicator, and it works. But this is much better dawn and dusk and low light. Any day that's overcast, which I mean, in northern UK, this should be killer because you guys don't see the sun. But no, so but anytime there's low light situations, first couple hours in the morning, and anytime from just before sundown until it's dark, this is my go-to. So doesn't do that great in bright situations. I don't know why, but I mean, bright flies, bright days, low light days, you'd go with dark flies, right? That's pretty standard.
Yeah, have you tried a white in bright days?
Oh, I use white all the time, Yeah, white any bright days, white, chartreuse, yellow, anything like that. Bright flies, bright days, dark flies, dark days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rule of thumb. That's not always true, but right.
Yeah, it's what I was taught.
Yeah. No, and I would say 90% of the time that is true, but so, and then like this one here as an example is one I tied, obviously another time I've already fished this one, but you see how much less red is in that one? Right? On the collar. So again, I do a combination. Sometimes I'll have a ton of red, sometimes I'll have a little bit of red, sometimes I have barely any. Other times instead of using dubbing, I'll use a little bit of a zonker strip and put that into a dubbing loop, right? But don't make it too long because otherwise it'll take up the whole fly, right? So next, let me close that Sally's. And let me give my desk a quick little vacuum. Get rid of all this. Let's give this a little bit of a zoop. Okay. So my next one here, and again, I don't know if you guys can get this one thing there. If you can't, I can send you a link of where to get it here. And they're called head turner beads. Don't know if you guys can get them there or not. I'm not sure. Have you guys heard of them?
Say again, Rick?
They're called a head turner bead.
Head turner.
Yeah.
So
what?
Heard of them. I don't know if any of the other lads have.
So what it is, it's a bead, a chartreuse bead or orange bead or black bead or whatever, that is actually made off-centered. So when you put it on your hook, the weight distribution makes it go forward, which ends up making this a balanced leech. So I'll show you in a second here. So I don't know if you'll get it on the camera. Actually, if I use see if we can see it on the camera. If I, you see that? It's kind of a
Oh, like
weird shape.
teardrop.
Yeah, like a teardrop. Yeah.
Yeah,
So when I,
they call it jig off beads here.
okay, so same thing then. Jig off bead, head turner, they call them here.
Yeah,
So yeah, so if you put this on a jig hook and make it so it sits like that,
yeah,
it will distribute the weight to the one end, and your fly will end up your fly will end up sitting balanced.
yeah. Ian Gillard sells them. Get slotted.
There you go. So you guys do have, we like I said, they're probably all coming out of the same darn factory, right? So
China.
China.
yeah, exactly, right. These are from a company here called Canadian Llama. It's just the Canadian Llama head turner bead, right? So that's just it. So I didn't think we had a like that only Canada could get them. I didn't think that. I just wasn't sure what you guys called them there. So. Okay, so I'm just tightening up my bobbin here. So obviously just make sure that's facing the right way, and I just go right up against it. Like I'm going forward like this with my line, with my thread, just to force that little bulb right behind it so it can't move. And this fly is similar to the last one in a jig style, but it's got a little bit of difference. So, and this is the biggest size. I would never tie anything bigger than this. This is a size 12. I'd usually do this in a 14 and a 16, and this is an FW555 jig hook. But like I said, this is big. So first things, I like having a little bit of a hot spot or a fire tail. So I use some red marabou. Doesn't have to be very big. It's just a little bit of a hot spot that you'll barely see through the dubbing, sticking past. So let me get to some better. That's not liking that piece there. There we go. Do you guys, not sure if it's just a North American thing. Do you guys have bull trout over there or Dolly-Varden?
No.
I think they got
No?
Dolly-Varden over in Ireland, but not in UK.
Okay. The next fly, no, not the next one. The next one after that is going to be a bull trout fly or a Dolly-Varden fly. But I would think it would probably work for any predatory style fish. It'll probably work. Well, I know it works for pike. And probably for I'm guessing sea trout, but I'm not a big sea trout guy, so you guys would have to tell me when we're done. But
I think the ones you've done
so,
already would be good for perch.
oh yeah, we've got quite a good population of perch in some of our prairies in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And actually, perch fishing through the ice is extremely successful. So now I like leaving this really long right now, just so when I end up doing my dubbing, if I cut it here, it might be too short if I leave right. So I just like leaving that until I know my dubbing is done. And then again, the rest here is pretty well the same as the last fly. It's not much different, except I don't put a red head on this one.
Are you fly fishing for pickerel out there with these type of patterns, Rick?
For pickerel, I go with more. Do I have any close by here? I go with more bait fish style patterns, like
Okay.
bigger, bigger streamers and things like that. Probably the best for that I've ever come across, probably one of the best flies in the world, in my opinion, is the Clouser minnow. It works for pickerel, it works for pike, it works for walleye, it works for so many different tropical fish.
Yeah, great pattern, isn't it?
Oh, phenomenal. And just change up the color and it's probably one of the most versatile patterns for predatory style fish. I mean, it's obviously it's rainbow trout will go after it as well, but it's not a typical rainbow trout style pattern, right? Unless you're talking about certain strains like we have here, like the Gerards that eat the crap out of a out of a Clouser minnow. And our Gerards here, because Gerards here are found only in the big lakes like Kootenay Lake, and when I say big, I mean like tens of thousands of square kilometers, like big, like massive lakes. And the Gerards in them are up to 30 pounds, 35-pound rainbows. So where's mine?
In what part of Canada are you?
I'm in British Columbia, right?
Right, okay.
I'm about 3 hours from Vancouver. I'm in the interior, is where I am.
Yeah,
But
I've
if
only
you're
ever
wanting to go,
fished in Ontario.
you know what? I've never been to Ontario.
Got some
It's
nice lakes.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. I've heard it. I heard there's some phenomenal lakes out there. So I didn't put enough in that time, so I'll have to redo another loop. Um, I've just I've landed in Toronto and taken off from Toronto. That's it. It's not. It's a long way across this country, and I've just never had the need to go, or the want to go to Ontario. It's not something that's ever been on my bucket list. I mean, fishing wise, I can do the same type of fishing in my backyard. So why do I want to go
Yeah,
all the way to?
you're more wild than down there.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Like literally, I look out my window. I got a parking lot, and then a hill, and then a mountain, and on the other side of that mountain is one of the best lakes in this area. Like I'm literally 10 minutes from some really good lakes. And in the town I live in, it's called Logan Lake, the lake that the town is named after. That I was ice fishing on. We've got up to 8-9 pound rainbows in there, right? So
Oh,
right
nice.
here in my back door, like 2 minutes, like literally a 2-minute drive. So sorry, I'm yakking away. So I'm just doing another one because I didn't put enough in that last one. And I
Sorry.
find if I hand dub, you don't get you don't get the same effect. It doesn't pull out as nicely, right? Than it does when you're putting it into a loop. So now I could do a split thread as well, but I'm getting old. My eyesight sucks, and doing split thread is not the easiest. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same level. If you go up and down North America, I'm just kind of almost above Colorado. I'm actually above Western Washington, but we've got British Columbia's got some of the best freshwater lakes in the world. It really is. If you guys ever want to go to a destination for some really good stillwater fly fishing, this is the place to come. Now, that being said, again, like I was saying earlier, you are limited to the one fly rule, which kind of sucks. But we've got many lakes here where, I mean, we're talking lakes, not your guys's like locks and your guys's private little lakes. We're talking wild lakes out in the middle of the mountains where you have to take a 4x4 into, or a quad, or helicopter into, that kind of stuff. We got lakes here that have 15, 18 pound rainbows, right? So
You got brook trout as well.
Yes, we do. We have brookies. We have whitefish. We have perch. In BC, we have perch and uh, pike as well, but that's in northern BC. This area, brook trout, whitefish, rainbows, cutthroat. So now all I want to do is I want to take a little bit of this dubbing away because it's a little long. And then I want to cut this tail, then that dubbing. And that's it. So now I just got to whip finish and it's finished. Now this one, like I said, I tie the exact same one in a pulling version as well. But this with the head turner bead and on a jig, it's designed to be under an indicator, right? So because it's another thing that we do that you guys don't do as much. Well, I don't know if you guys do at all. Most of the guys here, I'd say 85% of the time, they anchor. We don't drift fish. We don't lock style. It's becoming more and more known, but we'll go somewhere. We'll double anchor. Like we'll find a nice shelf. We'll find a drop off. We'll find a marl bed, and we'll put 15-pound anchor out the front, 15-pound anchor out the back, and just sit there, right? So, but that's it. Like I said, this one will sit this way, right? It'll sit nice and parallel. When you tie that on, it'll sit like that. And you got it on your line. If you use, now this is a mistake a lot of people do. If you try to put these head turners on a non-jig hook, that's how they'll sit. They will not balance it out. They have to go on a jig. Now, unless you want this, right? If you want this, then yeah, then have it like that. But if you want it to be horizontal, you've got to put it on a jig hook. So
what do you call that? Your head turner leech?
yeah, sure. Yeah, you can call it the head turner leech. You can call it. So I usually call it my fire tail balance leech, but whatever. It's just a. I mean, we've talked about this before in the times I've presented. You don't really invent anything new anymore. Everything's been invented. You're just changing colors and patterns and changing materials and stuff, right? It's pretty damn hard to invent a new fly. So this is just a different version of this one, right? It's just a slight change. So I do kind of the same type of thing. I don't know if you guys do it as well. I'll put a little bit of red marabou like that in some of my blobs and call them a firetail blob. But yeah, so that's it. Really simple. Just sits like that. If you want it into a pulling fly, just don't do it on a jig hook and put a regular bead on it. So I think I might actually even have, yeah, I do. So here's a similar, not the same, but similar to that in a pulling style with no bead, right? And then there's this one. It's again pulling style, but different dubbing, right?
And the one before, was that just a quill or what?
No, that's actually the a glow in the dark. These things here, that's
Yeah.
glow in the dark white flashaboo. Yeah, when this gets wet and slicks into there, and then the light hits it, it looks wild when the light hits those glow in the dark stripes. So I also tie the very similar style pattern to like these in multiple different colors. Again, I'm not sure because I don't know UK waters. Do you guys have marl or kind of tan light colored mud bottoms?
Some places.
Yeah.
So this is my go-to fly for those, right? It's just a tan colored sparkle leech, but man, over top of those marl shoals or those light mud colored shoals, these are just killer, right? So, and like I said, I make sure I've got a very wide variety of leech colors in my box, right? I'll have a kind of a coppery kind of brown. I'll do more of an olive green, again with bead heads, right? I'll do, this is more of a kind of almost like a take on a blue flash damsel, right? This one. So if you look through my box, I've got multiple colors and also multiple thicknesses. Like this one is really thin and wispy, right? It's just that it's kind of that cheap that mold. Actually, I can show it to you. Hold on. You buy this stuff at your local craft store, like your where you go get thread and sewing materials and stuff. It's just like mohair, right? And it's like $5 for, I don't know, 5,000 yards. So, and when you tie this stuff on, you tie this on, just give it a bit of a brush, and it makes it look like that leech I just had out, wherever I put it. This one, right? Gives that nice black underbody, and then that wispy, which when it's slicked back and wet, really looks leechy, right? And like I said, I think it's 5,000 yards here for nothing. So, yeah, and I even do purple, right? This is a jig version, but do purple as well. I do some orange. I always like having a ton of leeches. Leeches are probably the thing I fish the most myself.
What sort of
So
depth you fishing them in, Rick?
honestly, it depends on the time of year. There's like sometimes, like the fall, this past fall, I was getting fish in 2 feet of water with leeches. But normally I would say 8 to 12 feet. And I always like looking for those. I always like looking for those drop offs, and then I fish right on the edge of those drop offs. That's where I like fishing them. And like I said, my favorite time is like here in the mountains, because all of our lakes are up in these mountains. As soon as that sun goes away from, like, it's not directly on the lake anymore, but still light for another hour or two. But as soon as that sun goes past the mountaintop, that's when I start throwing leeches. And oh man, they just get, and they're aggressive. Man, are trout aggressive when they're going after leeches. They just smoke these things on the run. So, and when I'm fishing these under an indicator, I'm doing the typical midge type, or what we call chironomid type retrieve, which is just a little slow figure of 8. And then I'll give it a pop, pop, and let it sit. And then I might give it another pop and let it sit. And then I do another slow figure of 8. So every once in a while, I just give it that little bit of movement and then let it sit there, right? So with the balance under an indicator, with my pulling style, it's exactly that. You just cast it out, let it sink to your desired depth, and then it's just kind of a pull, 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 like just erratic, right? Get it
Just
to
lift it. Yeah.
yeah, and get it to do that swim, stop, swim, 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 stop, right? So I wish we could mimic a little bit better on how leeches swim, because leeches will swim almost like a shrimp. They'll kind of like they'll expand and then contract and expand and contract, right? So they don't always swim like this. Sometimes they just kind of do this through the water. I wish we could have a better way of mimicking that, but it's kind of hard to do. The best way you can do that is with nice soft materials that'll breathe and open and stuff, right? And that's what this will do.
A flat wing will pulse.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Actually, you would. Yeah. Yeah. Anything that'll pulse like that, right? Even using stuff like, I've got, I have it here. I got another one, another leech that I tie. I don't know if I've got any here. It, similar to these here, which are like almost like a carry, right? And that'll really pulse and flex backs and stuff, right? Having that ring neck pheasant in the front,
Yeah.
and then a little bit of a hotspot peacock body, really simple. But that'll pulse. So will, something like this, right? They'll pulse.
Yeah, feathers,
So
natural materials pulse a lot better than synthetic, don't they?
100% agree. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I like using Stu's dubbing in the front here. That stuff just moves because it's all natural. Like I said, I'd have to double check his site, but I think it's like rabbit, muskrat, and something else. And then he all hand dyes it all himself at his house. Right. So he's a small batch guy. He doesn't like sell to, it's just off of his website, but it's so soft and supple and natural with a little bit of sparkle mixed in, right? Let's see if I've got it here. So I'll just pull it out so you guys can see. And he comes in like 40 different colors, I think. But it is so soft and supple and
That looks interesting.
yeah, and just a little bit of, right, a little bit of sparkle in it. And like I said, he does olive and black and red and green and just like all kinds of colors. So, but if anybody wants a link to him, I just let me know and I'll put a link into the WhatsApp chat.
Yes, please, Rick.
I don't know if he'll send to UK. I really don't know. I don't know if he just does North America. I have no idea. So
Stu Thompson.
Stu Thompson, yeah, and it's called Dark Water Dubbing is the name of his company. So, but okay, so that's done. Just clean up. Yeah, Stu is actually a very accomplished fly tyer. He's written a couple of books, and he really does. He does a lot of coarse fish fishing as well. So a lot of carp. When I was in Winnipeg visiting him, because that's where he lives in Winnipeg, we went out fly fishing for catfish, and he landed what he called a small one at 18 pounds. So on the fly, and he's like, "Well, just a small one." And he showed me pictures of some big ones out of the Red River. There's some 30-pound catfish in there. So. But yeah, so he does a lot of coarse fish plus rainbows and stuff. He's got a leech, if you guys want to look it up online to copy it. It's called a DDH leech. And I think it'll say on the website, but I think up to last month, I think it caught 75 different species of fish around the world. So, but it's a streamer pattern, right? So, Hans BL 333 size 10, just any kind of a wet hook, whatever you like. I put on a little bit of a hot spot on the ass on this one. Now you can do whichever way you like. I like putting, this is going to be the hair dubbing plus, which is actually a lot like Stu's dubbing. But if you guys watch any of my stuff, this is by far my favorite dubbing in the world. I love this hair dubbing plus. It's just awesome. So just a little bit of a red little hot spot dubbing ball on the back end here. Doesn't have to be pretty. And just give this just a little brush out. That's it. Doesn't have to be pretty. It's just an attractor hotspot, right? Then I'm going to use, do I have the bag for it? It's Uphaven or Uphaven Bug Body in olive. This stuff here. How do you say that? Is it up Avon? Up Avon? How do you say it?
Raven.
Up Avon. Okay. I should know that. I'm pro team with them. I mispronounced the pro team I'm on for scissors. I mispronounced their name for the last 4 years. I always thought it was renomed. It's not. It's Renomed. So I stop about 1.5 hook eyes back. I'm just going to give this a nice little, making sure that my material is trying to go backwards. It'll
Is
end
that
up
the same
spiking
as
out.
a straggle, like a?
It is. It's soft. It's softer than a straggle. It's more like wool. It's not as
Right.
stiff. So just tie that off. And then I'm going to come in behind on top of that now with a micro zonker strip. Now, it's up to you what kind you like. This one's like really narrow, like really small. It's like really micro. Or you can go to one that's a little bit thicker. And this one's got the two-tone. For this pattern, I like the micro. And I'm just going to measure out roughly how long I want it. Out there. Now, the only thing with this pattern that I don't like, and I'll be upfront about it right away, it's a great pattern. It works really well. But these damn friggin' zonker strips, because of the way it's tied, can foul quite often in the hook. Right? Because I don't tie this down with a wire like a zonker does, because I want this movement to the whole tail. Right? So that's one downfall. After every cast, I have to just do a quick lift of my line and check, make sure that this hasn't done that, right? Hasn't twisted in. So, and then I build myself a nice orange head, again, to kind of match that back end. Give that a whip finish. So this is the new Hens Nano Thread. So, wrong way. Yeah, that's the new Hens Nano Thread. It's like I said, it's basically the same stuff as every other nano type silk out there, except I really like the dye job they've done. That's the one little complaint I had with some of the Semperfly stuff and other brands, is that their dye jobs are, I don't know, they're off. They're that's the Semperfly red. It's like really wishy-washy, like it's almost white when it's off the spool, and it takes forever to build up any red. This has got a lot more color in it, right? So, but yeah, so I don't know, just take my brush, just kind of just make sure that the body is fluffed out. And that's it. Really simple little Minky Leech. When this gets wet, it just moves like a bugger. But like I said, the downfall of this thing is you got to check it after every cast or every second cast to make sure that it hasn't done that, right? Because they do. Now, if you want to get away from, sorry?
Would a nylon loop stop it, or does that ruin the action you're after?
I think it would ruin the action. Now, the only other thing you could do is just put like right here, one wrap of wire around there.
Yeah.
And just so just the body is and the tail sticks back. But I think even that with this, because it's such a thin base or leather, whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to do it anyway. But I want this thin and lots of movement, right?
Yeah.
So, because if this was strapped down, I mean, it would probably still work, but I think it would still end up going and fouling itself. So, like I said, it's a good fly at times, but it is one that can be a bit of a pain in the ass. You have to really keep an eye on it, making sure that it hasn't fouled. So, but yeah, so simple little fly. Sometimes, tell you, I was just at a tying night. Where I've got our local fly fishing club. It's called the Kamloops Fly Fishing Association, and I'm the vice president. And we do every couple of weeks we do an in-person method session where one of our club members comes in and ties flies, and and one of the guys that came in, I'll be completely honest, a shitty fly tire, like really shitty. But one of his flies is such an ugly, stupid little thing, but holy man, does that thing catch fish. And I know it because he's been a friend of mine since grade 8 in high school, and I fished with him for many years, and that thing has never changed. So sometimes just simple and ugly work, right? I'll show you his flies. Hold on, because they're ugly and not well tied. But so they're just little ugly little peacock. It's got just like an artificial peacock with a piece of opal tinsel on the back, and then the opal tinsel extends past the body as a little bit of a tail. That's it. It is such an ugly little fly, but oh man, is that thing in that color and in the olive, has that thing caught fish? Just hundreds and hundreds of fish on a weekend. But like I said, sometimes you just got to go ugly and dumb, right? They work. Next. So that's my last one I'm going to do. It's a bigger one. It takes a little bit more time. I was going to do a snake fly for you guys. This one. It's a nice big snake, but I've ran out of not only the zonker, but I've also ran out of the peacock. So, and even more important, I ran out of and I was saying this earlier, Derek, I've tied it with green braid, red braid, olive braid. It works so much better with this chartreuse. It's weird, but it does. So, but yeah, I was going to tie that, but I ran out of everything. So I thought I'd just show this one to you guys because it's not really that difficult. It's just a bead chain eyes, peacock, sparkle chenille, same on the back, peacock, sparkle chenille, and then just a piece of chartreuse braid holding the two together and a piece of black zonker. Super simple.
You can do that one next time, Rick.
I will. I just got to, like I said, I just got to get the materials. So this one is why I asked you guys earlier if you guys have bull trout or dollies. Now I think this one would also do quite well for other predatory style fish that you guys might have. I'm not sure because it's primarily white, so I don't know if this is something that sea trout will go after. I just don't know, right? I've never fished over there, so I just know this thing is. If you look at my fly box when I go out for bull trout, I've got this fly in 3 different variations. That's it. Nothing else. Period. This is it. It's the only fly I use. And bull trout some days when you're hunting bull trout here in the rivers, if you get 2 in a day, you've done well. I've had 20 fish days on this fly. So just got to put my bigger jaws in. So I might have to move this as well. Just give me a sec. Actually, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Come on. Oh, it doesn't want to zoom out.
What size hook is that then, Rick?
There we go. Whoop.
What size?
Sorry, just a second here. I gotta kind of went wonky on myself, so I can't see what's going on. Just give me a second. Gotta go back. Just give me a sec. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is a Hens 750 in a size 4.
Wow.
Right? So any streamer style hook, I tie these in a 2 and 4, sometimes even a 1, depending. I don't go much smaller than that. The bull trout we're catching here on this are probably in that 6 to 15 pound range. So you want a good, robust hook. Normally, I actually use a Mustad saltwater hook that's got extra heavy wire.
Yeah.
But I got them somewhere, but I didn't have enough time to look around. I was busy yesterday doing other stuff. So this is because it's the shape, it's the length and the shape that I care about. So this is just white nano silk. Again, I want something that's got some oomph to it that I can pull, because I'm going to be attaching some bead dumbbell eyes and some other stuff on here. So I want it robust. So red dumbbell eyes, these are large. And I tie them with, if this was a size 1 or a 2, I would tie this with an extra large. So and I leave about 2 hook eyes space back. And I'm just going to tie that. Sorry?
What are they made of, the eyes?
These are lead.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know we're not supposed to use lead, but lead or tungsten, or brass, right? Anything like that. But they're heavy. You want this thing to go down. Bull trout and dollies are predators, but if you take a look at a bull trout's eyes, they're kind of they're they're not right here. They're kind of up on the side a little bit and up. So, and the reason for that is bull trout love sitting right on the bottom of the water, and they're always looking up for prey, and they prey on whitefish, small cutthroat trout, small rainbow trout. So what do they see? White belly. And that's what this fly is. It's supposed to represent the white belly of the fish that they feed on. Right?
The bull trout got the name because of the bullfrog, have they?
Oh, I don't know. And the funny thing is here, half the time people don't even know what the difference is between a bull trout and a dolly, because they look almost identical, like very, 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 very close. The only way to tell is the maxillary bone that comes off of the side of the mouth. If it goes past the eye, it's a bull trout. If it doesn't go past the eye, it's a dolly. That's the easiest way to tell. There is other ways, but they're hard because you gotta go to the tail fin and count the rays, and if it's above 14 rays, I think it is, it's a bull. Under 14, it's a dolly. Easiest way is to look at the maxillary bone. So just a dab of crazy glue. You don't want these things to spin. It's the worst thing. If these things spin, it sucks. Come on. So this just, I never use this for coating my flies, but this is the Gorilla Glue. Great stuff for this kind of thing. I would never use it for coating flies because it does go milky. So, and it's a bit more of a gel too, right? So it works really well for this. Just making sure that this thing doesn't turn. So put a bit of a base coat down. Then I will all my stuff here. Get a piece of white Zonker strip. Now, this stuff will make this fly heavy, and it makes it more difficult to cast. It's natural, it's heavy material. So there's 2 different ways I tie this fly. I always put a rabbit Zonker tail in, always. But the body, I either go with crosscut, which will make it heavier because it'll absorb. Or did I take it out? Oh, I thought I took it out. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. Semperfli and other companies have come out with a synthetic rabbit, and it's actually really, really close to the natural looking wise, but it doesn't retain water. So you get one back cast, and it'll flick all that water off, make that fly so much lighter, right? With rabbit, yeah, nope, it's heavy. Period. Right. So let's come on back to before the bend. You don't want to go around the bend. And I just tie this on really tight. That's again why I like using GSP's nano silks, because you want to crank down on this and then go under it and over and under and over. So now I can decide how long of a fly I want, right? I can make this 5 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, 9 inches, however long I want. I find that 3-inch mark, roughly 3.5 inches is usually my target. So I'll just turn over the zonker and I'll go in. I'll just cut the leather. Don't cut the material, just the skin, because that will leave you that hair in the tail, right? So now a little bit of baitfish white, or whatever brand you like, Flash. And they get about 3 to 4 pieces. I'll come all the way forward here. Get about 3 to 4 pieces, and I make sure it's going right to the back of the tail, even longer. Flip this one over, tie it in as well. And then you just want to make sure that they kind of stay on the sides. Give or take. I mean, if some goes on top, it really doesn't matter. And then I take my scissors and I'll cut it just to the longest fiber of the rabbit, just to give it some bling, right? So then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take these little hair clips, the ladies' hair clips, and I'll just keep that out of my way, just so it doesn't get in my way. Then, like I said, if you've got got the rabbit in my mouth. If you've got the synthetic stuff, which I do, like I said, I thought I took it out to show you guys, but obviously I didn't. Great. If not, I prefer the natural. I think it still moves a little bit better, but this is crosscut, right? So it's not a zonker, it's crosscut. So it'll lay back when I tie this in. So now if I tie this in this way and then start turning, it's going to go the wrong way. So I either have to tie this in upside down, right? And then as I go that way, it'll lay back, or I got to go to the other end and tie this in this way, and then it'll go that way, right? So you just got to make sure that you tie it in the right way, because you don't want this spiking out. You want it laying back. It really doesn't matter if it's upside down, because it's not going to be seen because you're one layer in front of the other, right? So again, nice and tight. Make sure that's really cranked down. Like I'm almost going to break this thread right to the front. And then just touching wraps. If you want it a bit of a thicker body, you can slightly overlap like that, right? You can do about a half overlap, or you can go all the way forward. It's up to you. I like having a thinner wraps, and one in front of the other at the back, and then I like overlapping as I come forward. Gives it a bit of a thicker head, collar, whatever. And I do 2 full wraps right at the beads. Sure that's tied in really well. All this rabbit flying around is getting in my mouth.
It's
It's
everywhere.
almost as
isn't it?
bad. Yeah, it's almost like deer hair. Yes. Except this stuff floats more. So, so again, just make sure it's tied in really well. It doesn't really matter if it's a little bit ugly here because I'm going to be covering this. So even if you over tie, it's not a big deal. I want to make sure that doesn't come loose. Then I take my brush and just make sure that's all brushed out really nicely. I wet it a bit with my fingers just to keep it tidy and not so unruly. Then I'll take a couple of pieces of that red flash, not a lot. I just want a couple of pieces. That's it. And I'm going to do the same as I did before, except I'm going to do it on the top. And I want it right on the top, and I don't want it quite to the end of the tail. So about there. So it's stopping about here. I'm going to come back to behind those eyes and just tie that in and then lay that back as well. And then I'll cut those. I don't like cutting things straight, but this is just flash, so I don't really care. That's just gives it a little bit of, oh, that's all. Then, final step is I find a nice piece of red zonker, and I'm going to cut it off of there and put it into a dubbing loop. I'm just going to move this just a little bit so I have some room down on my table. So I don't know what you guys have, but that's the Stoneful one, the Petitjean one. There's all kinds of different ones out there. I tell you, I've got 2 different sizes in the Stonefuls. I've got a dozen other ones all around. 90% of the time, I end up going for the 99-cent one from the dollar store. That's a magnet for the fridge to put notes on. It's so much tighter. It holds it so much better, and there's no ridge for it. So, like on these Stoneful ones, they've got this little ridge here, and every time you try to put it on your thread, right, it bumps, and then I always find it falls off. I always go with the cheap one. So, just give me a sec, and I'll have it ready. Just want to. So what I'm doing now is just kind of spreading it. I'm brushing it backwards to get it to stand out on my desk. And then I'm going to go in with my clip, grab a hold of it, take my longer scissors here, just clip close to the right close to the skin there. Like I said, I would think any predatory style fish that feeds on larger fish, I think this would work, but so.
Works for pike.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I've used this for pike in Alberta many times.
I tie a pike fly exactly the same as that, but black with a red collar.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I actually tie a lot of chartreuse for pike. For some reason, like at least here, they love chartreuse.
They love pink as well.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, they do. Pink and white. So again, same thing, just putting it in my dubbing spinner. Give that a good pinch. Get all those spins off of that thread. Get that to spike out really nicely. And then I just go back and forth with my brush, just making sure.
Yeah, I tell you what, to say it's identical to what you've done now, apart from where you are now with the red. I put in there just a big hackle.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you use like a ringneck spay hackle or something, or like a
I'm
schlaufen? Or
using the big American hackles,
okay, so I
the
do
white
that, and
thin ones.
then I'll come over the eyes,
I sometimes
and
bring it over the eyes or bring the eye just slightly forward.
yeah, I like having it over the eyes. Kind of gives it that almost sculpin head look,
Yeah,
kind of, but not really. It looks like crap right now, and it even once I got it all kind of preened out, but as soon as it gets wet, that just slicks back, right? And then I like building a really nice head here on this one, nice tapered head. So I'm just going to make sure none of my stuff is in the way. Get it nice and wet.
but a
And
hell of a
then,
lot of movement in it.
oh, tons of movement. But again, like I said, if it really is a pain in the arse weight wise. If you're casting this on a 7 weight fly rod or an 8 weight fly rod all day long, and you cast it about 45 degrees upstream, let this thing kind of sink, and then as it's just downstream from you, you start stripping this back. You do that all day, you've got a sore shoulder.
Yeah, I must admit, I use a 9 weight for that fly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're also going for much big. I mean, Pike can get to, well, I don't know what they get to there, but I mean, Pike can get to 30, 40, 50 pounds here, right?
Yeah, we don't get them that big. A 30 would be big here.
Yeah. So now I'm just switching over to a red. Now, like, remember I told you guys about the Semperfly, the dyeing? This is the red Semperfly, and it takes quite a few turns to make it turn red because it's so opaque almost. You see how it's really have to build up a lot before it gets that red look. And I like building up quite the taper here. If you don't, I mean, I didn't have any classic waxed red out. Otherwise, I would have probably used that because it just builds up quicker. And it's actually a much nicer red.
Looks like a bloody chicken, doesn't it?
And then, Boo. So just some UV resin. This is the new stuff that Uphaven just came out with, like just literally a month ago. And I don't know if you guys have used this one yet, but they've got a no tack guarantee. If it tacks, you get your money back. So far, I have to say it's probably one of the only ones I've ever found that is no tack. But I also haven't tested this thing in warm water, cold water, so I'm actually going to be doing a bit of a video on it. I'll boil some hot water, put some ice water out, and then I'll dip coated flies into both and see if it changes, if it goes milky, that kind of stuff. Because that's the worst thing about UV resin. If it goes milky, it just sucks. Bingo bango.
What do you
Take that
call this
off.
one, Rick?
I just call it my bully basher. So it's like I said, I think this would be a heck of a fly for. I know it works for pike because I've used it in Alberta for pike. I think it's a really good predatory fish chaser, right? So I've done well with it down in Mexico for red snapper, for a few other things like that. Not trevally, Jack Crevalle. So it's a bait fish, right? Is what it is. Change it up. Like I'll do white with for a jack. I'll do white with a green head, or I'll do white with a blue head, to make it look more tropical, right? A tropical bait fish. But the movement in these is just insane. It's absolutely insane how much movement you get out of rabbit, out of these rabbit strips. Again, they get heavy. So just give me 1 sec. I'm gonna see if I can quickly.
Do you reckon it'd be all right for the test, Derek?
On the test,
Yeah.
they wouldn't allow you back on, Pete.
Depends which end you're bowling from, Pete.
Okay, where is it? I know I've got some in here. Just gotta find it. Just trying to find, oh, there we go. So this is the wrong color, but it doesn't really matter. So this is the Semperfly synthetic rabbit zonker. So, right. So if you take this, I don't do the tail in it because it doesn't sit. It's too floppy, right, for the tail. But wrap this as a body, it works like a charm. And I've got it in white in there as well. Wrap this as a body, and this stuff gets wet, and because it's synthetic, one back cast, it sheds all the water, gone. Right? So it moves really well too, this stuff. So, and actually I found almost the identical stuff at Walmart. So, and it comes in so many different colors. Yeah, there's the white right there. So, and it works really well. Lots and lots of movement. And with these, just tons and tons of different color combinations you can do with it. Add more flash, less flash. Like I said, change the color combinations up. Some of them I'll actually put some ring neck spay right here and let that kind of sit back, and it'll give it like almost like leg movement, right? So some claret ring neck spay, and I would do that before I put the red rabbit on, right? So that you've got some of those little tips sticking out as well. And again, when this gets wet, now I'm going to go do this on the sink because I don't have enough saliva to get it wet. There you go. And it'll pulsate like crazy, right? As it goes through all that current. So that's it.
Magic. Cheers, Rick.
He looks like Woody Woodpecker.
A wet
Kind
one.
of, actually. Now that you said that, you're right. I should call it that. Yeah, so I don't know what else I can share with you guys other than obviously you guys, because this is your guys' fly, the humongous, right? I tie a ton of these. Do you guys know what a pumpkin head is? You guys ever fished pumpkin heads over there?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen one.
So basically it's just a woolly bugger, but it's a woolly bugger with an orange bead and orange hackle. That's a woolly bugger. And then you can tie it in brown as well.
Oh, so you're using glass beads.
Glass beads, yeah. And normally, like, this isn't the right glass bead. The proper glass bead for a proper pumpkin head here is it's a silver lined orange bead, right? So it gives it a bit more of that flash. I couldn't find any, so I've just got straight seed beads, glass beads. And it's one of the more popular ones here. This is another little leechy type bait fish type pattern I use a lot for sometimes for rainbows, but a lot for cutthroat trout. So it's kind of a little bit of a take on on a thin version of a blue flash damsel, kind of, but not really. See what other, and then this is using some of the Uphaven blue flash damsel chenille. Right. Can actually probably move that in so you guys can see better. So if you look through my box, I have more leech patterns in my boxes of different sorts, right? Cat's whisker type, right? And lots of the attractor style carry patterns, carries and sprattleys and things like that, right? I use a ton of these kind of flies. Another one here, very popular over here, is, and it's not a really good version of it, but this is a Knuff Lake Special, it's called. And it's a sedge pattern, right? It's not a very good version. It's kind of faded, that one, but and then your typical carry special halfbacks. So, and then I don't know if you guys seen this before. You guys use Gomphus over there? Deer hair Gomphus dragonflies?
Oh yeah.
What's the body on that, Rick?
Deer hair. It's all stacked deer hair, spun deer hair, spun deer hair, spun deer hair, just stacked in and then shaped, and then pheasant rump, or what else could it be? That's pheasant rump, and then this in the head is actually a piece of foam that was tied in first, and then just brought forward, and then you can just put a little dot on for the eyes, and this thing floats forever. Right? And then there's a different version of it, just with plastic mono eyes. I don't tie these, I buy these. I hate tying this kind of stuff with deer hair. It makes such a mess.
And it gets everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only fly that I will buy there's a green dark olive green one. So any better? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I tie a booby version. Oh, here's another big monster dragon. This thing has caught me some big fish, but it also scares other fish away because it's so big. Right. And the body, underneath the body, is foam. You can see it kind of sticking through that green foam. Right. So this one floats forever again. Right. And I'll fish this and other styles that I have on a type 6, type 7 sink, full sinking line with about an 8-foot leader, and I'll fish this right in the weeds, and that way the line is right in the weeds, but this is floating just above the weeds, and then every time you strip, it'll dart towards the weeds and then float back up, and then dart and float back up, right? So, but this thing's huge. This thing's like 1.5 inches long. So, but yeah, I don't know what else. Anything else I can quickly share? If so, great. Oh, simplest fly you'll ever tie. The polar chenille leech. It's one material. You just wrap it and it's done. This is the purple black. It gets wet, kind of slicks right back. Doesn't have as much movement as natural materials because it is all synthetic, but and then a similar little black and orange Minky style leech. Put it in the vise. But little black and orange zonker. So similar to the big sucker I just tied, just in much smaller, right? So just get that right in the vise proper. This I found this one, it works really, really well in the fall. And you can underdress the orange, overdress the orange, right? There's a bit less. Yeah, I think that's about it, really, that I've got available to show you. You know, more English style. It's a kind of a what we call a carry special, but kind of. Oops, sorry.
Bit like a dabbler.
It kind of dabblers. Do I have a dabbler in here? I love playing with dabblers. I'm not the best at tying them, but I had no in here. I had a dabbler in here. I've been playing a lot with the British cruncher, snatcher, dabbler, bumble, all those kind, because it's not something you see here. It's just not used here, period. Right? So like more
You tie
like
a dog knobbler?
a dog knobbler. Oh yeah, I have. Right? So kind of a a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of a different variation of a Kate McLaren, kind of, but not really. So it's like I said, I take a lot of inspiration from you guys. You guys have been doing this for so damn long. You guys know what you're doing. We're still really new here in comparison. I mean, fly fishing has only been really big here for 70 years, maybe. Right? So kind of a little hopper type thing, a CDC hopper. Knotted legs. And then we tie a lot. I don't know if I've ever done North American chironomids for you guys, but this is the kind of chironomids we fish. We don't fish a lot of the buzzer style like you guys do. That's what we fish, is that.
Yeah, typical buzzer.
Yeah. But it's got the bead head on it to help it think, right? We don't tie a lot of we tie very few unweighted chironomid buzzer style patterns. Very few.
Yeah, we fish our buzzers here generally below the just below the surface.
Yeah. And here we do that as well. We're actually, sorry. Some of us do that as well. We got people here that follow a lot of the British style fishing. We do that. I tie a lot of emergers as well. But here, that I would say 75 to 85% of the people, they'll go and they'll find, let's say, a 20-foot area, like a drop off that goes down to a marl bottom in 20 feet, and they'll set their strike indicator at 18 and throw it out. Right? They start at the bottom. They start 1 to 2 feet above the bottom. Oh, no, after 10 casts, nothing. They'll bring it up 2 feet. 10 casts, nothing. They'll bring it up 2 feet. Right? Until they find, because as we all know, rainbow trout are horizontal feeders. So we got to find where they are. And some of our lakes are, most of our lakes are about 30 feet deep. Some of our lakes are 150 feet deep. So, but if it's got brown trout in it, brook trout in it, tiger trout in it, then it's totally a different story, because they're vertical feeders. They'll come up from 12 feet to smoke your dry fly, right? They'll be sitting on the bottom in 12, 15 feet and come ripping up. And I'm trying to find, I don't know where, hold on, no, they're in here. Because like I said, I tie quite a few shuttlecock style that I really like. Right? So, oops, get that out of the way. So I tie quite a few to shuttlecock, and I tie quite a few shipmans. I love, like I said, absolutely love your guys' style of flies that we just started learning this stuff here. We're quite behind. And there's all the buzzers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So, and then some crazy ass bloodworms and apse worms and yeah.
The one on the bottom is the one you showed us last time, wasn't it?
These ones here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of them. I also showed you guys this one.
Yeah.
That one. And this is just a what do you call it? A furled buzzer. So it's just taking a stretch floss and furling it. Right. So find this one. This one can work if you get it right down, almost right into the mud, right into the marl, and just let it sit there and just give it a little twitch and get it to go get that puff of mud. Because this is like one coming out of the sand, like out of the mud. Right. Other than that, I don't find these work very well. That's the only time I find these ones work. So
Funny enough, the one we're tying next week in the pub is the Cound Leech. Very similar to that.
oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, and I did these for a short, and I haven't fished these yet, but I think these are going to be I think these will be a winner, especially for chironomids and mayflies.
Yeah.
Right. I think these are going to be a nice winner, nice and buggy, and you can change the body color. You can change the CDC color if you want it all black or whatever. A little bit of it's a 3 mil foam post from hens just to get it to sit like, like that in the water type of thing.
It'll sit right in the film that will.
Yeah, then that's what I wanted it for, is to sit right in that surface film for just when you're seeing that back of the fish coming out and sipping. Right. It's another thing a lot of people here just don't understand I think I've introduced you guys now to Gary Hankey. You should actually get him to share, or I can share it with the group, a article he wrote about 3 years ago. In my opinion, the best article I've ever read for being able to read the water on still waters, and he calls it rise forms, and it's all about, if you see this, it means they're doing this. If you see the back coming out, they're feeding on that. If you see a violent splash, it means. It's such a well-written, well-rounded article. I'll share it with you guys. I think you got your.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. Gary can be a bit of a hothead and a bit of a hardhead, but holy crap, can that man write? And he researches the crap out of stuff before he writes it. So he's done one on lock style fishing, on rise forms, on wind lanes, and his wind lanes article is phenomenal as well. He did one on fry bashing. He did another one called Come Snail Away, which is about snails. His writing is just very scientific and very informative. Some of the best writing I've ever seen. So, and all little 6-7 pages, right? Not something that you're going to have to sit there and, a lot of people lose interest after a while, so they're not extra long. But I'll share a couple of his articles with you guys. So
thanks for tonight, Rick.
You're welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Sorry, I know it was last minute.